Okay, so for our small account challenge, there are a few questions. What account should we use? Well, I like to use TradingView, and I already have a few other accounts. So I need to narrow down my selection process. Now, if I open up TradingView, I'm in TradingView right here. We're not going to do any analysis just yet, but I look at the trading panel, I can see all of the firms that are connected here. Now, there are a few things that matter to me. I'm going to tell you guys which firms I have accounts for already today. I have a Webull account and I have a TradeStation account. Right? A lot of prop firms use TradeStation and Webull. So you can only be logged into one instance of a TradeStation account or Webull at a time. So here's what we're gonna do. I am going to open a TradeStation account, not because I necessarily care about TradeStation or like TradeStation, but what you're able to do in TradingView is in this first tab, I could be logged into TradeStation, and then in another tab, I could be logged into TradeStation, and then in another tab, I could be logged into Webull. That's really complicated. I don't recommend trading like that. I'm doing that for the sake of this challenge. I have to trade my own account. I guess I don't have to, but I will be trading my own account. And so I'm going to do this in a separate tab so that I don't have to move a bunch of money around in order to do this challenge with you. And I think that TradeStation is okay. Let's go ahead and look at TradeStation's website really quickly. And we can see the different products that they have. So if we go down to futures, you can select futures. It'll bring up their futures page. And we want to see what their intraday margin is for futures. Now, the reason why I'm choosing them, just like TradeStation and others, is that they have low intraday margin. So let's see if we can find that breakdown really quickly. All right, so this page here has the futures margin rates. So we're going to search by symbol. I mostly trade M&Q. So you can see here the intraday initial margin is $636. Intraday maintenance $578. Okay, overnight margin $2,500. Okay, so this means that with a $1,000 account, I can lose up to really $300 and what is that, $64, because that comes up to $1,000 before I run out of margin. Which trading one M&Q, I should be just fine not hitting that mark, and then every dollar over that, I'll be fine. So we're really going to be constrained in this account, and hopefully I don't hit it. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't have a 100% hit rate, so if I lose, or if I start this challenge with a really bad losing streak, we're gonna hit that amount. Hopefully not, otherwise this will not be fun to film, but we're gonna do it nonetheless. So we're gonna do just $1,000, and we should be fine getting away with one M&Q. So I'm gonna go ahead and open an account. Actually, before we do that, let's look at MES. So for MES, it's $166 per contract. That might be a little bit more favorable. We get away with trading like 2 MES as well versus M&Q. So that might be something that we incorporate into our strategy. So I'm gonna go ahead and open a TradeStation account. Now, if you're new to trading and you don't understand margin, let me break this down for you. This might be a longer video actually. So margin is the amount of money that you have to have in the account. Think of it as collateral in order to open a position. Basically what they're saying is we're not going to just let you bet on up or down in the market without having some skin in the game. Okay, you can't just open an account with $0 and say, oh, I'm just going to trade my way to having money. No, you have to have money in the account so that you can eat losses, things like that. Okay, so that is what the margin is. And then intraday, that's where these different values come in, right? So there's the intraday maintenance, overnight margin. Okay, the market closes for an hour, and this is the margin. This is the amount of capital that you need, okay, in your account to keep that position open through those open and closing periods of the market. If that's complicated, just understand that you need money in the account to open trades, and take some time looking at these margin values. And when you open a trade, you will see in the broker the representative margin allocations in this case, TradingView. When you open a trade, you'll see what the margin requirement is for that trade. If the value of your account, let's say I go into a trade, I lose a ton of money, and then I only have $167 left, and I'm holding one MES, and it starts to go against me. As soon as this hits $166.90, they are going to close my position for me, right? And charge me a fee. Ask me how I know. So if you're a newbie trader and you're not careful, you will get auto liquidated. Something that happens. I want to save you from that experience. It's really easy to not happen, and it happens to nearly everybody, including me, because you're simply not paying attention. Okay, so don't let that happen to you. And that's really it for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and open an account. When you open an account, you'll need to sign up. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill this out. We'll skip this part of this through the power of editing, and we'll be right back. So I'm just creating this account right now, guys. Don't forget your password. So I'm going to do an individual account. There is a page here. I'll just take a snapshot of this. Okay, so on this page, I just took a snapshot of it. You want to make sure that you have individual selected. Okay, you probably don't need a joint account. You don't want to do an IRA necessarily. You can, if you're just starting, which I imagine you are if you're following along in this video, just choose individual. A lot of people, and this is a side note, a lot of people over fixate on perfectly optimizing their money instead of making money, which could be counter to everything that I said in the beginning of this video about like just making small sums of money. But I could tell you guys from experience, it's much more important to focus on income generation if you want to do a step function change in your lifestyle than it is to focus on pinching pennies and optimizing your buckets of money. Okay, optimizing $50 doesn't matter. Just go make 5 grand. Okay, I promise. Anyways, choose individual, equities, futures, and let's just see futures options just because maybe we'll use that later in the video. If you don't select something here, okay, in terms of equities and options, futures and futures options, you can add that later. These first ones, okay, you can't just change. Okay, these aren't easy to change. You'd have to actually open a new account and transfer the money between account types. These are just checkboxes in each account that you can add. Okay, if it's too confusing, don't worry about it. Just, you know, select equity options, futures and futures options and leave it going. Where it says margin trading and options trading. Okay, so you can keep that selected. We do need that for futures. Okay, we're not going to trade stocks in this. And then for options trading, I'll leave that checked on. We're not necessarily going to trade options. We'll leave that checked on as well. Okay, it says investment risk tolerance. We're going to check speculation. And then where it says options trading level, we'll just leave it at 5, whatever. We do a bunch of crazy stuff. All right, and then fill out the rest of the form. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, on the screen that says affiliations, it's going to ask you a few questions here for employment status. You know, go ahead and put your employment status, which is above. Okay, so when you're on the financial screen, fill that out appropriately. Okay, then it asks you to link an account. I'm going to choose add external account. I'm just going to link it to my checking account for now and keep it really, really simple. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and transfer funds. I'm on this transfer funds screen for my checking account. I'm gonna do $1,000 currency USD, and we're just gonna do it one time. Hit preview. Let's go ahead and black that out. Confirmation, and we'll hit let's go. Wants me to set up 2-factor.
A few minutes later.
All right, so we opened the account. That was arduous. Took a few minutes here. So what I want to do here is show you how even with just $1,000 we can make some money. So the first thing that we're going to need to do, all right, if you're a brand new trader and you're doing this, is you need a trade plan. So we're going to work on one together, doing some analysis from the past week. And that's what we'll start with this video. Okay, we're just going to look at the market at a macro level. So I'm going to look at ES. And what I want you to do in this first video is I'm just going to make some claims and some statements. And I want you to just trust me for now. I'm going to explain these things. I can't explain everything in depth. These things will start to roll together. If I explain every single concept in depth, this will be a 4-hour video. And I've already spent longer on this one video than I want to. So across this series, we'll dive into different topics. For now, I want to do the activity. So I want you to see how I plan and look at the market. And then I'll start to break down why each component matters and where it layers and comes into the fold. Okay, trust me, please. Okay, I'm already thinking about all the little things I would need to explain. Just take them as truth for now. Certainly question things, ask questions as you should. You shouldn't just believe anything. But if you're gonna watch this video and wanna follow along and see how I think, then yeah, just follow along and see how I think. So come to trading view, the first thing that you're going to need to do, all right, if you're a brand new trader, we can open up a new version of this, but what you want to do is get the session volume profile HD indicator. So come up to indicators, search for session volume profile HD, add that to your chart, and then also the visible range volume profile. You'll add that to your chart as well. I'll link some videos. First thing that we want to do when we're doing planning, let's just call this the small account challenge. It doesn't matter where you do this. Okay, I'm going to use Notion, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a database inline. Okay, and I'm going to add a calendar view. Okay, and we're just going to do this raw. Okay, the past week. So what I want to do first is ask myself what happened on the macro. Okay, So we'll go over here, and I'm doing this on Saturday. There's no pressure for me right now. One of the things that I notice in my own community and other communities is all of this analysis always happens right before market open. Okay, and you're gonna do that anyways. You're gonna have to look at the market right before market open, do some analysis, figure out what happened. But do some on the weekends. I promise you, there's no pressure. I literally can't trade right now. I could go trade Bitcoin or something, but I'm not trading right now. So this time that I'm spending right now, even though I'm doing a video, is outside of market hours, which is really, really important. I promise you, if you do this, you will excel as a trader or really anything that you want to get good at in life. Okay, so I'm on the daily chart on ES. First statement that I'm going to make, ES is the leader of the market. That's how I trade. I trade M&Q and ES. I always use my analysis for ES. It takes precedence over anything else that I see. And if there is a divergence or difference between this and NQ, I always take what I see on ES. First and foremost, okay? They have an overlap of a lot of similar equities and things underlying that move them, but I digress, and I can explain all that. Okay, so we're gonna look at ES, and I wanna ask myself, what is happening here, okay? So because I'm a volume profile trader, I wanna look at what liquidity matters, and then I wanna think about how we get there. So the first thing that I'm gonna do and add to my notes is I'm gonna outline in boxes just what liquidity matters. The volume profile shows us volume at prices, and the volume at these prices helps us understand participation. Okay, where do people flood into the market? Very obviously here, you can see that a lot of people are coming in at the relative lows of this range. Bold statement number 2 that we make, we only take trades at the edges. Now, this is really, really important. If you've been in my Discord, if you take my course, we're gonna help you better define what an edge is, but it's really, really simple. But before we dive into that, so we've outlined the liquidity using the visible range volume profile. I'm gonna come over here and put it into my notes and say, here we see the major nodes on ES. ES closed the prior week after sweeping a previous high and coming in at a lower high on the macro. So what do I mean by the lower high there? Okay, so if we go back to TradingView, you can see that we swept this high. Okay, what do I mean by a sweep? Get rid of these boxes now. We don't really need them. Just outlining that more so for you guys. We went through and cracked this high. We barely front ran this high. So we swept one high, we front ran this high, and it's a lower high from all-time highs. You can see that this is the all-time high here. And if we do the little trend line, it's coming right up on it. So immediately I have a trade idea here. I'm doing some planning, but I do have a trade idea. My trade idea is go short at this line. Okay, now we can explain this a lot, but I'm gonna explain it very, very shortly. We're just gonna make statements in this video. It's the first one in this series. This is an edge. Okay, this is all-time highs in the market. We have a high, a lower high, and this would be another lower high, which makes sense for this pattern. The market will keep doing what it's done. Sweeps matter. The risk on this trade is we might sweep this liquidity. What is a sweep? A sweep is basically where we know that on this day, okay, let me do an arrow. On this day, somebody went long. A bunch of people, let's just think about the people who were playing the game. They were speculating from here to here, right? From this last high to here. Okay, the market broke out. It went past this. It's going higher. So people are like, oh, I need to go long. I need to go long now, even though these are some of the highest prices in this relative range. If you think about the range from 59.36 up to the highs here, 61.43. There's people going long here, okay? The reason why sweeps matter is when we push through this price, we have swept up the last trapped person. What do I mean by a trap? So that means that somebody, zoom way in, somebody went long right at 61.23, okay? And then immediately, because the market closed on this day at, the market closed at 6,049.50, right? They got screwed. Now, maybe that person is already out, but what we know is that if we sweep a price, we have gotten all of the people who were trapped long from that session. This is a really key idea for how you can expect price to behave on any given day. We trade around sweeps. So there's always key levels that we look for every single day. We look for prior day high and low and overnight high or low. When you go and zoom out to the daily or the weekly, you can't just look at prior day. I look at prior pivots. It's the same thing. I teach prior day high or low because most people are looking at lower time frames, and it gives them very specific edges. Those are not the only edges that matter, especially when on the daily. If I just was looking at prior day, I'm looking at one bar. Okay, I need to think of this daily chart just like I would think of a 5-minute chart or a 15-minute chart. If I imagine that the daily is a low time frame, which it is, there are people who are trapped here, 100%. Big players for sure, but they're trapped here. And people are gonna behave psychologically different at these edges, right? This is where we get these little fast wicks, pops, and then the price will revert. It'll give us those nice mean reversion trades that we're looking for. So If I short here at this line, there's good confluence because we will clean these guys up. We'll sweep these guys up here from the 28th session, hit the trend line, which would be continuation. We can see that we're at the edge of the volume profile shelf. There's nobody above us here. There's no people here. So for the market to continue higher, we're going to need a lot of people to come in, a lot of buyers to compete, bring us higher. But we know that there's a lot of people lower. So a mean reversion, just reverting either to the session mean or reverting into this node here makes a lot of sense. So that's a quick trade idea. I'll take a screenshot and I'm just going to add that to my notes. Okay, trade idea. If you followed me and looked at my other templates for things, you'll notice that this is very different. Okay, this is just a free flow, me doing some analysis, which is fine. I don't want to lock people into the template. I'll share a template in a later video for how I do this on a daily basis. I have another thing in Notion where I have templates for daily plans, journaling, things like that. There are tools like TradeStation you can use. There's a ton of ways you can do this. This is how I started doing it, and this is totally fine. I'll say that again. When I started doing this, it was free flow. Sometimes it's still flow, and it's totally fine. What's important is that you look at the market and you ask yourself a few key questions. What liquidity matters and how do we get there? Okay, if you're an auction market theory trader. Otherwise, you're doing something else. You're just doing TA. Cool. So trade idea is go short at this macro trend line, reverting back into the largest node below us. Look for previous day close or not previous day close, previous day low or POC or target. Okay, so what do I mean by that? That means if we zoom in onto the lowers, go like to the 15, there is higher resolution here. Okay, so we can use our session volume profile at these prices and we can try to figure out, okay, if we short this, if we bounce off that trend line above, where are we going to go? Okay, there's a few edges, but inside a session, we might not just come down and sweep all the way down to this edge. Okay, there are a few edges that we can see here, right? So there's a node right here. Okay, there's a node right here. If we line that up with structure, maybe we come down to 6,088, or, I mean, this would be a very short day. We can see that we just come down to this node right here, 6,088, sweeping the bottom of this little shelf right here. So there's a few things that we could look for, nodes, POCs. There isn't really a naked POC here, but we'll talk about that. So that's my trade idea. Here's the other thing that we want to do when we're looking at the macro. So I have one trade idea, and this is a good example right now of a counter thesis. So what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong is a question you should ask yourself with every single trade idea. A lot of people, I get DMs, they're usually 3 paragraphs. And this isn't attacking anybody who's done this, okay? But there's a very similar narrative to every single one. Hey, I thought the day was gonna go like this, took the trade, it didn't work, and I kept going for the same trade. What is up with the market? I don't understand. It's doing something unreasonable. No, the market isn't doing anything unreasonable. You had a read that was wrong. The market told you were wrong. It told you were wrong pretty fast. You did not listen, okay? Something that you need to learn in trading, and this is another statement that's very true. Now, I want you to take this one to heart. Even the best traders sometimes or oftentimes have no idea what's going on. Being a trader doesn't mean that if you just presented me any random chart and said, what's gonna happen next for us, that I would have an answer for you. That's not how trading works at all. And I promise you'll never get to that point, okay? Being a good trader means that you have plays. That means that there are moments in the market or different types of setups where you do know what's going on. But most of the time, you don't know what's going on. That's the key. So trading isn't about pressing buttons, it's not about taking action. Okay, trading is about waiting for specific setups or edges. Here's a really good example here. If I'm wrong, I have because I'm at a market edge here, I have a really defined risk area. Let's say I want to go short at this line. We sweep this and we sweep this. I know that the risk on my trade from experience is that we pop up, we do a trend line break, but it's a fake out. I know from experience. And the risk on my trade is probably the space from this trend line to sweeping this high, because I know the market likes to sweep people. That's 30 points. That's at least 30 points of reasonable risk, okay? So if I'm red here, my thesis could still work out just for a general sweep rejection, okay? I know that the market can do this if we don't respect this trend line, that we'll just sweep this and then it will revert because it screws over the most people. Shorts get shaken out here, it'll chop, people go long after it sweeps this edge over here, okay? I'll just draw it out. It's gonna go like this, okay? Shorts get screwed because they get shaken out. So what I need to do when I account for my plan is I need to account for that, okay? If I'm wrong about it rejecting here, I need to understand that it could go for this sweep and do that. And so that is acceptable risk. So there's a few ways that I can trade around that. And it honestly doesn't matter how I do it. I could have a tight stop and then re-short here. Okay, have a tight stop, re-short here, or I just let that be acceptable risk. it really doesn't matter. What matters, I'm telling you, it really doesn't matter. What matters the most is that I understand that it makes sense. So for me to truly be wrong on my short, knowing that that is a plausible downside outcome as well, is if I see volume accumulate on the volume profile above this high, okay? If I see volume, or if I see volume even coming in here, right? If they consolidate inside of here and it is holding highs, right? If we're building volume, say we start flagging inside of this red zone and it's gonna push through, it's probably gonna push and hold, okay? This video is really long, okay? But so those are some things that I need to account for. How I could be wrong, how I could be right differently so I don't get shaken out. And I need to write all of that down. Okay, so I'll come back to my plan and say they could sweep all-time highs and then revert because the trend line is very close to all-time highs. And that is just something that's always gonna happen when, this is always possible when we have very horizontal trend lines. Okay, what do I mean by horizontal? The slope of this line. We're not gonna say slope, but because this is very horizontal, this is very, very likely. Okay, it's the difference between this and this. Okay, if this trend line was like this, okay, just due to the power of, you know, math, I guess, it would be much less likely for our highs to be that close together. Okay, but in this case, it's only a 30-point difference, you know, for a trend line holding or not in this case, and also for a sweep, which happens when we're auction market theory traders. Cool. In general, there's some other things that we want to ask ourselves about the market, and then we're going to wrap this up. We're going to do a bunch more videos on this. Okay, what is the macro trend? Okay, we've been ranging here. We'll go to the weekly. Look at the weekly chart. We've been ranging. Okay, so if we keep ranging here on the weekly, let's just do a box around what I consider the weekly range. Low, low, highs. And we could even, I'll draw an intersection over the highs here. Okay, so these are the highs up here. So I generally want to go short in this area, and I want to go long around in this area. And I want to line that up with these nodes, okay? You can even say we have these high nodes of participation to go long and then short up here. If you're trading in the middle, it's where you get ruined. So I promise you, if you look at your trade log, which you definitely all have, and you're going short down here and you're going long up here and you're red, ask yourself why. It's because you're a chaser and you're not thinking in simple terms. Okay, figure out what the relative range is, go short up here, go long up here. And if you trade in the middle, just understand that you're in the middle and you're likely to get screwed. Okay, and that applies to every single time frame. Woo! Okay, so we did a very simple plan. We have some trade ideas. What you can also do in this is when we take a trade, we're gonna add a property here called tag. Okay, and I'm just gonna call this weekend analysis. What is this property? That's not type. It should be like a hashtag property, which I don't see anymore, unless I'm blind. But I guess you could add a select, and what we want to choose here is weekend analysis. Okay, we'll give that the type weekend analysis and we're good to go. So that's it for this video. Go ahead, join along, and let's go ahead and we're just gonna aim to double this account. We're gonna do long form and short form content trading this account, and I'm gonna show you guys how I trade. Also, if you want the scholarship, go ahead and apply. Okay, we're doing a scholarship for the course. Check us out in the Discord. Go to wap.com/tradeedge. We day trade live in there most of the time, every day, but 9:30 to 11 a.m. Good community, growing, want to grow that as well. A lot of stuff cooking. See you in the next video. Peace.